Okay, so here we are. This video is taking me a bit of a time to get started. And that's because the guy we're going to be talking about today is Freeman Fly. And we're going to be specifically talking about a video that he made that was ostensibly a video documenting or discussing the horrible events of November 14th, 2015 in Paris. This video that I'm making now is not going to be a commentary upon the Paris attacks. It is going to be a commentary upon Freeman TV's and Freeman Fly's and his video that came out the same day, entitled Paris Attacks, Believe It or Else. I do this video with a heavy heart because Freeman Fly, up until this point and up until recently, I would consider kind of a lovable guy. For those people who are not familiar with Freeman Fly's work, Freeman Fly is a conspiracy theorist, I think it's fair to say. And I don't say that as a pejorative. I say that because I think that that's the clearest definition of what he's doing. I'm not one of those guys that thinks that conspiracy theory is synonymous with BS, or that conspiracy theorist is synonymous with, jerk or idiot or something like this. To a greater or lesser extent, one could say that I might be a conspiracy theorist because there are conspiracy theories that I believe in or think that happened. This video is complex because Freeman Fly came to my notice originally years and years ago. He's been doing this for a while. When I first became aware of Freeman Fly's work, I guess what I would say was predominantly one of the biggest things that he did, or what he was famous for, was the analysis of symbols in media, advertising slogans, advertising dress, icons for various companies, and he would draw analogies, I guess, or analyze the symbology of these corporate logos and say, proof that it was, advertisement for the New World Order, the Illuminati. The McDonald's sign is two golden arches, and that goes back to Sumeria or whatever, and the Sitgo sign, the pyramid, is because all this, the Freemasons go back to ancient Egypt or whatever. It was this stuff, and I'm going to be completely honest. I really kind of regarded it as entertaining, but not very serious. Obviously, he took it very seriously, but to me, it was one of those things that seemed kind of like the outer fringe, that if there were people talking about conspiracy theories in regards to, analysis of realpolitik, or, the actions of state governments, the notion of this sort of stuff, that, you could decode the matrix by seeing kind of a they live, approach to media analysis that I thought was just a little simplistic, to be totally honest, and kind of just entertaining. The next kind of claim to fame that he had is that he then started, he had a series of a kind of a movement or a phase in his work where he was promulgating the idea that, Barack Obama was a clone of an ancient pharaoh from Egypt, Anunnaki. I am terrible with the pronunciation of certain names in particular, and for God's sakes, couldn't he have just been a clone of Imhotep? You know what I mean? Or, or, Tut. How about that? But, Anunnaki, I'm probably slaughtering that name. And if you take that as proof that I don't know what I'm talking about, I guess you do. I really just do have a problem pronouncing this name. But we all remember, or some of us may remember, Freeman Fly superimposing images of Michelle Obama upon ancient queens of Egypt and saying, see, it's a perfect match, or the Obama children, and specifically Barack Obama and Michael Jackson, superimposing using a series, I guess, of Photoshop techniques to show that there was, to demonstrate his evidence that world leaders, entertainers were in fact clones of ancient Egyptian royalty. These things were not very problematic to me because these things were entertaining to me, but like I said, I didn't really take it very seriously. He has entered a new phase of his work that I gotta say is, you don't want to, first of all, let me say this. I am not saying that Freeman Fly is a racist, because I don't think that a person can be a racist. Let me explain. I'm not C.W. Chanter. He's not Freeman Fly. Those are names that are put upon bodies that are dressed upon souls, really. I don't know if it's getting esoteric, but I want to explain that a racist the word racist is a title that we put on someone, and really is attributable to their behavior, right? Someone acts in a racist manner, or behaves in a racist manner, and we say that that's racist, or that behavior is racism. the person remains the person. I'm diverging from kind of common accepted notions of what it means to be racist. It just means to say that there's truth to the expression. There is no Christian, there is no Muslim man, there is no Hindu, there is no Jew. There are just people, right? Souls, living entities experiencing life, growing, becoming, and hopefully moving forward into the future. So I'm not trying to put any terms on him. I'm not trying to define him or say that he's a bad guy. He's not a bad guy. He's a beautiful man. And there's many things about his underlying, I think, philosophy that are divergent with his new premises that he's putting forward. That's what made starting the video so hard, is that I'm conflicted because I really do like this guy. I really do, but I think that he's promulgating racist ideas and Islamophobic ideas, and it's just crazy, and he's engaging in fear-mongering. It's nuts. The only thing I could do, I think the simplest thing to do, is to front-load the video with kind of some of my theses and premises so that we don't take too long, because people know my videos go on for a while. So what I want to do is put out the meat and potatoes right up front, tell you what my kind of theory is, why I'm making the video that I'm making, what I think the problems with his video and coverage were, get that right on the front so that people can, take that much and get what they can from it, if they agree with it, if they don't agree with it. And then I'll go on to the point-by-point analysis, whereas, I just basically go through, what they said in the video, what I recall of them saying in the video. I took notes in real time as I was watching the video and using it as a springboard. They made a 2-hour video, so people can imagine that it might take me a fair bit of time to get through this. I'm not going to try and belabor too many points, so I'm going to try and go as fast as I can. To that point, let me just get started. I made some simple notes. I think it's best if I just, at this point, don't wibble-wobble, just kind of dive in and commit and talk about what we're talking about. Why make this video? Well, alt media is good in a lot of ways, okay? But alt media can be bad in a lot of ways. We know that alt media is good because prior to the invention of the internet and YouTube and, WordPress blogs and Facebook notifications, there was hegemony in the media world. People were dominating, the major media. I'm just going to speak specifically about the United States of America because that's the easiest thing for me to do. People can probably draw analogies to their own countries of origin. In America, the major media conglomerates are owned by very small group of people, of corporations who have agendas. They are for-profit businesses, and they also own and are divested into other for-profit businesses. So the effect of that is both, number one, that there's going to be things that they put forward or push. If it bleeds, it leads, in order to generate viewers rather than honoring journalistic integrity and intent of saying or discerning what is the most important stories to cover of the day. The second thing that happens, and multiple things happen, we're going to kind of thumbnail everything. The second thing that can happen is because these major media outlets are wholly owned subsidiaries of other international corporations who have other business investments, well, there's things that don't get covered at all. I mean, if you own McDonnell Douglas or some other aviation company, are you really going to be covering anti-war protests as best you can? You know what I mean? It's just one of those things that people say. So in the internet age, a lot of those problems, or some of those problems, were solved. Why? Because people could choose, had a vast plethora of media options then to dive in and to pick from, and so that new voices came to the front, new stories were therefore covered, smaller stories that were maybe buried by major media outlets would come to the surface and be exposed. But of course, nothing is simple, and the alt media explosion has got good points, as I just addressed, but it also has bad points. And one of the worst points about it, why is my video so goddamn shaky? Freeman Fly! No, one of the worst things about it is the fact that any old sucker, and this applies to me, folks, I'm not trying to say that I am any better than anybody else that I'm going to be talking about, or any worse. It is the truth that because simple consumer level technology now allows us to get onto YouTube and to express our opinions, and to express those opinions almost in the exact same form, fashion, or manner as major news outlets. Look at Alex Jones, right? It's clearly designed, the set, the setting, the techniques, the talking, the structure. It's all designed to mimic old TV news coverage. Well, the problem is that it might not be as good as the old TV news coverage. He might not be Walter Cronkite just because he's sitting in Walter Cronkite's chair, right? And we all know that there's, alternative media outlets that espouse ideas that are clearly racialist, racist, homophobic, um, economically unsound, bizarro. There's, objectivists. There's libertarians. I mean, I'm not to say that those things are inherently problematic. There's Nazis. David Duke appears has has an internet radio broadcast. Born Again Christians have internet radio broadcasts that lambaste other things. It's just the way that it goes. And so, just because it walks like a duck and talks like a duck doesn't mean it necessarily is a duck. And just because it walks and talks and looks like a news broadcast or legitimate news research doesn't mean it is so. Also, things are a double-edged sword. And, the fact of the matter is that anybody can get on TV, get on the internet, and call themselves a researcher and say statements like, the information I'm going to share with you today is well-researched. Well, that's a statement. That statement may or may not turn out to be true. So I just want to say that just like you're looking at this video, you should not take everything I'm saying without a grain of salt. You should analyze, think for yourself, open your mind, make sure that you're being robust and forcing yourself to look at things from different perspectives whenever you're taking in any media analysis. Okay? So this will be an opportunity for us when we're talking about Freeman Fly's coverage of the Paris terrorist attacks to talk about problems with alternative media. And that doesn't mean to say that a problem with alternative media says the major media is the way to go. It just means that you have to keep your brain functioning at all times, folks. It's the internet, especially YouTube, can be a mental health hazard zone, okay? And also for the speakers as well. Part of the thing that I'm going to be analyzing is the fact that what I like about Freeman Fly is essentially the fact that he kind of seems to have an underlying theory or premise, a theological kind of cosmological bent, internal bent, that kind of is like kind of like a punk rock hippie Gnosticism. You know what I mean? He seems to have a lot of affinity with the message of Christ's consciousness and agape of universal love. And a lot of things that he's saying, especially in this video, just so go against that. I mean, it's just, I'm like, either he's being an intentional hypocrite, or he might not know and understand that there's an inherent conflict here with his, love and friendship agenda and the Islamophobic put thoughts that he's putting forth in this video, and it's Islamophobic. I mean, the commentaries that he and his woman Jamie make in this video are just disgusting. That's not to say that that I'm trying to be an apologist for Islam. I'm not qualified, but let me tell you, folks, these guys are not qualified to talk about what they're about to talk about. They make statements that are just cuckoo bananas. It's just, and we're going to get to that. Let's talk about the allegations of racism. One of the things that they front load on their videos to say that they're not homophobic, they're not racist, they're not racialist, whatever. Then they begin to say, this is common. We often hear this of people. They'll say, I'm not a homophobe, but it's in the Bible. It's wrong. You know what I mean? There's just things that sometimes when a person says that what you're saying is racist, and I'm not saying that Freeman Fly is racist. I don't think that he thinks that he is, right? I don't think that if you were to say to him, do you think that whites are better than blacks, or that Jews are better than Muslims, or that Jews are better than Christians, or vice versa, or any of these things, I think he would say no, that everybody's, human beings. But then when you get to what he actually articulates and states, there's an inherent contradiction. Sometimes when someone says what you're saying is anti-Semitic or racist, you're right. You're right. Sometimes they're rushing to judgment. Sometimes they're not listening to you. Sometimes they're putting you in a box because it's uncomfortable to think about the new information you're bringing to the table or what have you. But sometimes, goddammit, sometimes, you are being racist, And sometimes I've learned that when someone tells you that something that you said is racist or homophobic, rather than instantly saying, I'm not racist or homophobic, it's best to think back on what you said. Pray on it. Turn it over a couple of times and ask yourself the question, am I more interested in denying the allegation of racism or homophobia or Islamophobia, or am I more interested in figuring out and making sure that I'm not saying things I don't really mean or want to say? We also have to talk about clickbaiting. The fact of the matter is that this video is entitled, the video that I'm analyzing is called Paris Attacks, Believe It or Else. It's a 2-hour video, and it came out November 14th, 2015. Let me double back to problems with alt media. One of the things that I'm noticing about alternative media and alternative coverage is that everybody is just waiting for something to happen so that they can immediately go onto YouTube and call it a false flag. A rush to judgment. A historical event happens, you take in the data, you have to analyze where you're getting the data from, what tunnels it's coming through. You have to think about that data, right? And make up your own mind and figure out what you're going. Are you going to trustworthy resources? Have you gotten all the information? Have you gotten all sides of the story before you formulate your idea? That takes time. There's certain news organizations that are qualified and set up to go to a place in real time and start broadcasting that data. Yeah, it's mainstream media, and I'm sorry to say that. You can have alternative media options. People on the streets of Paris with video cameras, cell phone cameras, recording in real time what's going on, seeing the movements of individuals and actors, recording the movements of EMT and police, what have you. You know, we all know that September 11th, 2001 was a very well-documented historical event because it was an event that happened when everybody finally had cameras walking around all the time. There were tons of cameras all over the place. So, but Freeman Fly is not in Paris. He's not on the streets of Paris. And the fact of the matter is that any data he would be analyzing, he would be coming through other channels and other streams. But we don't even need to get there, folks, because, guys, he doesn't mention anything specifically about the Paris attacks at all. I call that clickbaiting. You may have been planning to make a video on the day in question. You might want to have had pause to say, well, gee, we're about to do a video about the rise of Islam in Europe or the effect of Islamic immigration to European culture, European countries, how they're perceiving that, how it's actually playing out. And you might want to give it a minute if something historical happens at the same time that you're doing it. The fact of the matter is, if my YouTube feed shoots up and tells me that Freeman Fly just got shot or just died of a heart attack, I'm going to stop recording this video. Right? Because there's new information, things I need to take into account, things I need to take into consideration. So I'm gonna call clickbaiting on this bad boy to throw this 2-hour video out there, and it's a thrown together video, and these guys are just not qualified. Essentially, what the video is about is fear of white genocide. Honestly, if I'm lying, I'm dying. The notion that Freeman Fly is now an advocate of this fear of white genocide is just heartbreaking to me. Absolutely heartbreaking to me. For a guy who basically is coming from a kind of Gnostic background, for him to start thinking about things in terms of white genocide is just cuckoo bananas, folks. It's just heartbreaking. Okay? There's no white genocide, okay? You know, and also it's Islamophobic. Look, yeah, there are billions of Muslims in the world. There's billions of Christians. Are we all... I'm not a Christian, but are we all the same? You really think that the millions of Jews in the world all act, walk, talk, and behave in a uniform fashion? You think once you know that someone is a Buddhist, you can predict their actions within the matrix, you know, with perfect impunity? You think that someone tells you a Catholic, you can automatically assume that they're pro-life or anti-gay marriage? No, no, no. And the notion of the assumption that just because someone is the other, that they're acting in a more uniform fashion because their religion says something different, believe you me. If you think that you're going to point a finger at Islam and say, you know, coming from a Gnostic Christian background and say, oh, but look at this rule in Islam and this rule in Islam, it's different. No, brother, you can't do that. The punishment of the lake of fire is just as much die by the sword as die by the sword. And meanwhile, no one, you know, look, with the exception... And I also don't want to be an Islamic apologetic, engaged in Islamic apologetics. Dude, I'm not a Muslim, and guess what? I'm not pro-Islamic fundamentalism, right? Am I saying that Islamic fundamentalists are not homophobic jerks who go out killing people? That would be ridiculous, right? I'm not naked, and I'm not saying that there's not, you know, bad eggs that come over the Syrian border into Europe that are going to cause some problems. But the generalization of one group of people, the Jews, the blacks, well, you know, the thing with the Mexicans is, yeah, they come here, right? And they got the Mexicans. What the Mexicans do? The Syrian refugees? Yeah. Oh, you think they're all smiles and sunshine? The Germans. Let me tell you something about the Germans. You're going to trust the Russians in Syria? Good luck. You know what it's about? You know what the thing with gay people is? You know, gays. The way they talk in private is different than the way they talk to you or me, the gays. Generalization is stupid. People are individuals. They are. Are there broad sociological trends? Sure. But is generalization and racism the way to go? No. No. And we're going to get to how cuckoo banana. When you hear me say and repeat the things that this guy and his woman say, you're going to say, some of you might say, hey, look, he's on the money. Freeman Fly, he's got my vote for president. And some of you might say, Freeman Fly, he says that? Oh, yeah. Where do we get to what the fuck these jerks, I'm upset. What these human beings say, it's a little bit shocking to the system. It's especially shocking to a system from a guy who says that he's a proponent of the freedom and love, or with the friendship love agenda. I just want to say another thing, folks. The Nazis started off as hippies. They did. You do your Google research. Look at the Thule Society. Look at the people that originally were the beginning of the Nazi Party. They were nudists. They were naturists. They ate microbiotic diets. A lot of them were Hitler was a vegetarian. Hitler was a sensitive man. Great song by a terrible band. You know what I mean? They were all sorts of hippie dip. They were sun worshipping, into Eastern esoteric philosophy, studying Buddhism, and then they put on their brown shirts, their black jack boots, and went buck nutty on the Reichstag. It's true. If I'm lying, I'm dying. Do the research. Look up books like you can do Occult Roots of Nazism. Will get you started in the right direction. There's many, many resources. Google and Wikipedia sometimes are your friend. Agape, one love, Christ consciousness, Gnosticism. That's the boat that I would put Freeman Fly in, but he routinely keeps on talking about white genocide in this video. Never mentions the Paris attacks at all. We'll get there. That's to say, it's crazy. It's not. They claim that it's meticulously researched. It's not meticulously researched information at all. We'll do this. They're not qualified to speak on the subject. Okay? They're not qualified to speak on the subject, folks. Sometimes having a doctorate degree means you are indoctrinated. I get it. Sometimes it means you're part of the system. You're coming from a doctrinaire, routine point of view, and you're just repeating verbatim absorbed or accepted information. Okay? But sometimes, sometimes you do need to have a little bit more nuance and understanding than to spend the last couple of years of your life looking at McDonald's signs or talking about the mermaid on the Starbucks cup as being a symbol of ancient Atlantis. Sometimes you do. If you're going to be talking about these things, you do need a background in sociological analysis. You do need a robust theological background or studying of knowledge of comparative religion to talk about these things. You do. You need to be able to talk about race relations. You need to talk about the history of World War II and Europe. You need to understand the nuance of the structure of the European Union, and you need to really have a robust political background. These folks don't have it. God bless them. That doesn't make them any less human. That doesn't mean that their life has any less value or that their opinions have any less value. But it means the context within which you have to absorb their opinions is different. Okay? If I start telling you how to fit yourself for a bra or a wedding dress, you have to say to yourself, unless this guy is going to tell me that he's part of the Parisian drag review, maybe he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about, right? Maybe I don't. The thing about menstruation is this. I am not a doctor. I'm not an OBGYN. I'm just a guy. Don't listen to me talk about women's issues, right? But physiological, biological ones. Probably don't want to talk to me about any of it. But anyway, okay, so it's not meticulously researched. These guys are not qualified to talk about the subject. And what's really coming down is it's fear of the other and ignorance. It's basically the whole premise. They say themselves that the original title of this video was going to be The Muslims Are Coming. First of all, asshole, the Muslims are already here. At one point in the video, Jamie, who is, I guess, Freeman Fly's, good-hearted woman, looking for a hard-hearted woman. God bless you for finding one. I love mine. She says that she basically knows one Muslim man. In 2015, not only is your research not meticulously well researched, your frame of understanding is not meticulously well researched. You need to get out and start meeting some people, folks. How the fuck do you do that in 2015, not in modern America, have only met one Muslim man? She says it. I'm not trying to put words in her mouth. She fucking says it. That's the evidence of a sheltered life. And evidence of a sheltered life means before you get on YouTube and start talking about things, maybe you want to get out and explore the world a little bit more. I know you went to Egypt at least once. God bless you. But first of all, then how are you going to say the only met one Muslim man? Anyway, here we go. It's fear mongering, fear of the others. The thing about Islam is that it's a violent religion. Unlike, you'll see these guys repeatedly make reference to Judaism, Islam, and then they stop. They make reference. They criticize Judaism, they criticize Islam, but guess what gets left out? Christianity. Guess who are Christians? Essentially, Freeman Fly and his woman. He can call himself a Gnostic. He's clearly a Christian. Gnosticism is a form of Christianity. It's a form of Christ consciousness. That's where its historical origins are. That's where he's coming from. And Jamie, without a doubt, is washed by the blood of the Lamb. She considers herself a Christian. If she wants to deny it, she can. She makes references to chick tracts. Remember those little comics? If you go eat Halloween candy, you're gonna burn in hell forever. You know what I mean? And the Pope is in league with the Jews to turn everybody gay in cartoon comic book form. Chick tracts, CHICKTRACTS. Look them up. They're fascinating. I collect them. They're great. They're cuckoo bananas, born again Christian nuttiness. But she references them all the time. She concedes in other videos that she grew up in a very strict Christian household, and she clearly has left none of that fucking behind. It's fear-mongering. These Muslims are coming. The Muslims are coming. They're coming over our borders. Now, look, I understand there's some problems in Europe, and I can relate to them completely because we have them in America, our porous borders. First of all, no one has a problem with the Canadians, right? Shane the fucking Ruiner can come over the Toronto border, with a bag of whatever, and me and him are going to have a fine old time, right? Because he's the right color, right? But the Mexicans, they come over here. They get into our hospitals. They use it for everything. They drain our resources. Look, some of that stuff is sociological fact, and some of it is just racist assumption. A lot of this comes down to fear of the other. If you come from a different place in the world, if you're of a different faith, if you're of a different color. But if you come here, and more of you come here, what if you turn on me? And what if you just don't? So I'm going to take the fence of the school of John Lennon. But it's true, right? Once upon a time, the Chinese were going to take over everything. And this was going to happen. And this racist thing was going to happen. That racist thing was going to happen. It just didn't come to pass. We've assimilated. Are there problems? Sure. But more or less, there have always been problems in the world. People shoot each other. It happens. But for the most part, we get along. We do. We assimilate. We end up going to the same schools. We end up partying together. We end up breaking bread together. Do I have to record the video because I said the N-word? I'll leave it in the comment section below. I clearly said what we call pejoratively in America, not pejoratively, we call in America the N-word. So if people have a real problem with that, maybe I'll just, I'll edit out that little thing. But I think, stream of consciousness, I think it makes sense. What are we going to do? I'll let you guys tell me, hash it out in the comment section below. Does that little thing have to come out, or maybe I will? Whatever. Anyway, I'm not going to, we're already, for Christ's sake, if I start over, it's nuts. Anyway, so look, fear-mongering. He doesn't talk about the parasite stuff. What he does talk about is white genocide. Now I'm going to talk about this. The premises of white genocide I reject. Okay? The Holocaust in World War II were millions of Jews and Gypsies and people, Slavs, and Quakers and different people were put into gas chambers. The systematic hunting down and gathering of a people and putting them into trying to exterminate a people. That's genocide. The Armenian genocide, where the Turkish government tried to get rid of all the Armenians. The agenda was to kill all the Armenians. That's a genocide. Okay, a lot of people will use the word genocide in terms of what happened with people from Africa being brought over to the New World as slaves. slaves, and the systematic abuse of people in the colonies as being, and then in the United States of America as being an Afro or a black genocide. The Hutus versus the Tutsis in Africa in the early 90s. That was a genocide where one group of people tried to systematically destroy another group of people. That's a genocide. What is the evidence of white genocide in America today? What is the evidence of true, what could be called white genocide in Europe? There's none. There's no systematic rounding up of white folk by anyone else to try and kill them all, to try and get rid of all the whites. First of all, that's the whites. I mean, what does that have to do? The definition of how much melanin you have has to do with something. First of all, there's no such thing as race. I mean, that's just an illusion. This is just an illusion. There's no such thing as race. Really, there isn't. There's generalized genetic characteristics that come from different parts of the world, but as we mix, everybody knows it. We're all going to be cocoa brown sooner or later, right? It's all going to be fine, the white genocide. And first of all, if you're coming from a Gnostic point of view, what do you care if all the white people go away and there's just people with more melanin content in their skin? What does that have to do with the fact that there's Christ love in the world and everyone's getting along? There's humans. Do you really think that if there was ever a worldwide Islamic caliphate, that would be the end of the promulgation of new religions or new faiths? You think that there was an overarching Islamic caliphate, that people within that caliphate wouldn't fight with each other, continuing the same jazz has been going on since time eternal? Do you really think that there's going to be an Islamic caliphate? You think the one world government that happens eventually, right, is going to be an Islamic caliphate? It's going to be a modern system of representative republic democracies around the world, because that's what works, right? It's not going to be anarchism. It's not going to be socialism. It's not going to be the New World Order where we all walk around in gray with a number on our forehead. No, it's going to be representative democracies, right? Just like America, Japan, Russia, the Ukraine, Syria, in theory, Iraq as it's supposed to be set up, Libya as it's supposed to be set up, Israel, you know what I mean, Japan, South Korea, Liberia. I mean, look, sometimes it's hard to break through and sometimes it works, but generally where you go around the world, you see people in the countries that work and are productive, they get together every once in a while and have elections. Are there dictators in the world? Sure. Guess what happens in countries that got dictators? Their economies tank. It sucks. And guess what happens when those dictators are eventually overthrown? By the rebels, organically. Not by force, not by outside intervention, but organically. Guess what happens? Representative democracies, generally. Exceptions abound, but generally the places that work are following the same game plan. It just is what happens. So white genocide, give me a break. Come on, it's just fear of the other. And we've been talking about this bullshit for decades. Before it was the Muslims, like I said, in America, it was, the migrants. They're going to come over and or the Jews. They're going to come over and they got their fingers in everything. You wait, we're going to take all your money. It's stupid. Anyway, we haven't even gotten to the fucking... anyway, problems with Islam do exist. There you go. Listen, every religion's got its good points and its bad points, okay? And yeah, is there aspects of Islam that say that there should be conversion by the sword and we should take over the whole wide world? Yeah, but guess what? Everybody's holy book has got problems, and probably everybody's holy book should probably be put in context, right? I don't think any of these people have it totally right. I don't think any of these people have it totally wrong. Are there parts of the Quran that are beautiful? Sure. Are there parts of the Bible that are beautiful? Are there parts of the Quran that are scary and are like, what? They said what? Of course there are. There are big problems with Islam. Guess who has a big problem with a lot of the aspects of Islam? Muslims. You don't think that there's liberal Muslim scholars trying to reform stuff? There are, geniuses, there are. And guess what? This whole notion of white genocide because the Muslims are coming. They're white Muslims, right? You know what I mean? Like, if you're a white dude and you convert to Islam, that's not white genocide. That's a white dude becoming a Muslim, okay? Oh, and guess what? If the Muslims come over to America to call that a white genocide, you got a real problem. You got a real problem if you're calling it a white genocide in Europe. Guess what? You know why? Because there's people in Europe who are not white, right? Let's look at the example of America. Freeman Fly has got to be analyzing this in context. He said, first of all, this asshole said that there's going to be invariably riots in the streets. He's engaged in full fear-mongering. You're acting like an asshole when you say there's going to be riots in the streets inevitably, and we're all going to have to become dark heroes or dark villains. using our guns to defend ourselves. That's a real Gnostic point of view. I'm going to get my gun to defend my physical property against you coming in here. That's Christ consciousness abounds right through that stuff. Give me a break. Give me a break. Okay, so the Muslims take over America. Is that white genocide? There's a lot of other people here besides just whites. Gospel music would apparently be destroyed and go away. The blues as an art form and an idiom. Are we going to allow modern hip hop in the Islamic Caliphate of the future? I would think not. So therefore, there's a lot of black Afro culture that's going to be going the way of into the fire as well. So how are you justifying to call it a white genocide? Okay, to say nothing of the other ethnicities and ethnic groups that occupy America. It's just nuts. So here we go, folks. We're finally going to get to the video, to the analysis of the video. What's the first topic up for discussion? What's happening in Paris? Real-time analysis of the players involved. Is it ISIS? Is it someone else? No. The first topic of conversation is boycott Star Wars 7. Why should we boycott Star Wars 7? Well, everyone knows that when the Star Wars 7 trailer came out, there was a special branch of Rube who took to the tweet universe or took to the airwaves of the internet and started saying it was racist. I saw the trailers. The only thing you could possibly say was racist was that the lead actor is now played by an African American gentleman. Really? That's not allowed? First of all, they act as though that a brother in Star Wars is without historical precedence. Hello, a little kick-ass dude, a full-on hombre of special regard in the Star Wars universe by the name of Lando Calrissian. You may have heard him, ably played by Billy D. Williams. Did what he could to stand up to Darth Vader, man. You know what I mean? What are you gonna do, man? Listen. You're the man. You're the leader of Cloud City, man. You gotta save Cloud City. You got a lot of citizens you gotta watch out for. Even if it means watching your homeboy go down into freaking carbonite, man. Lando Calrissian. And by the way, Lando Calrissian. Okay, you're going to twist his arm, Darth Vader. You're going to make it, you put this boy in carbonite. Guess what? Lando Calrissian's going to go sneak into Jabba the Hutt's castle, right? No one will forget when you saw, through the visor, that one of the guys that just snuck into, kind of the bounty hunters that brought Chewbacca into Jabba the Hutt's pleasure palace, was, how'd you recognize it? It was his brother, man. It was Lando Calrissian, man. He's doing the do. He's going to get his boy out of jail. Come on. One brother was in that friggin' Star Wars 7 trailer. Maybe there was a couple more in the background, but for the most part, the reason why people are up in arms is because they can't believe that Luke Skywalker's not white. And it's not even Luke Skywalker, guys. I don't know what the heck people are talking about. But guess what? Freeman Fly says that that's true. That's an exemplar of not only racism against hate whitey, but that apparently he's an advocate of, apparently there was a girl named Genophilia who said that not only was the Star Wars 7 trailers an example of I guess it's kind of reverse racism, but it was also an exemplar of white genocide. And then he goes on to say that people who do this talk about Star Wars 7 being an exemplar, the trailer to Star Wars 7 as being an example of white genocide, are labeled a racist. You think? You think that's going to get you labeled a racist by going off on the Star Wars 7 trailer because there's one effing brother in it? Give me a break. Oh, and why do you label this person a racist? So that you can mock them and you can discount their theories. Yeah, sometimes the theories are fucking just total crapola. Right? Sometimes theories are friggin' racist. So you got the Paris attacks, and he leads off with by the way, Star Wars 7. Apparently he's an advocate of this theory that Star Wars 7, number one, is inherently racist against white people. An impossibility, right? White people, we got it so bad. Oh, we're the worst guys ever. Look at European history. Look at colonial history, dude. You can't do things like that around the world and then act like, why does everyone think that we're heartless people? Destruction of the first people in the New World. Taking Africans as slaves, the exploitation of Eastern Asian nations, the exploitation of people around the world for their natural resources, and then all of a sudden, what? Me racist? Come on, everyone's everybody. Come on now. Okay, here we go. Oh, it's always the people of. I'm just gonna. I took notes, and at this point, we're just riffing. At this point, I'm just gonna go through, and I'm gonna read through as fast as possible, mocking and making fun of these ridiculous statements about Islam, ridiculous statements about race, and ridiculous statements about whatever. I've got a whole bunch. Let me count the pages to freak out the fans. Okay, 1 page, 2 pages, 3 pages, 4 pages, 5 pages, 6 pages, 7 pages, 8 pages of what these guys have said. Guess what they say? They mentioned Henrik Hellburn, I guess from Red Ice Radio. Oy, that guy. We're going to talk about him later on. Not today. We're going to talk about somebody. Good people will have to become. This is Freeman Fly speaking directly. Ask you if this guy sounds like he's either free or he can fly. Think about that. A little bit in minds. Is this a statement by a guy who's free and who can fly? Good people will have to become dark heroes, dark villains. We will have no choice. We will turn to battles in the streets. Dude, what is that pre-programmed language? And first of all, let me tell you something. It's always been a premise of mine as a conspiracy theorist that one of the biggest conspiracy theories that the powers that be had and utilized was racial division, right? If we're concentrating on fighting each other over nothing, right? Because you like green beans and I like, noodles and ham or whatever the heck that is. These stupid, bizarro, minor distinctions, that was how the powers that be maintain their power and hegemony, right? Look at the Civil War in the South. How many young white men from the South died in the Civil War who did not own any slaves and never would own any slaves because they were a victim of the same mercantile power pyramid as the slaves themselves? Totally disenfranchised from any sense of power. Totally having no right to vote or anything like this. Come on. Give me a break. So then there you go. So it's like you're presumably trying to come after the Illuminati. By what? By engaging in this sort of racial divisionism yourself? This sort of, and also just predictive programming. It's going to be, he says it repeatedly, it's going to be riots in the streets. It's inevitable. When you say it's inevitable, you're saying it's inevitable. It's not inevitable. Love can conquer the day. Hello, Mahatma Gandhi. Hello, Martin Luther King. Guess what? Sometimes you don't have to solve your problem with your fist. Sometimes you don't have to solve your problems with a gun. Sometimes just being beautiful and open and wonderful, love solves the problems. The original title was The Muslims Are Coming. That was what they're going to call their video, but they couldn't. Why? Because there was a comedy troupe that's already taken that. It's actually not a comedy troupe. It's a film. But this film was famous because the Metropolitan Transportation Authority in New York wouldn't let the posters up. Presumably, they didn't want to let the posters up not because they were pro-Muslim, because they were anti-Muslim. They thought that people would take it the wrong way, misunderstand. They thought that it was against their MTA guidelines. So they told the filmmakers, that they couldn't have those posters. The filmmakers brought a suit in court and won, saying the MTA had to put them up. Again, the MTA's motivation was not an anti-Muslim motivation; it was a pro-Muslim motivation. They thought that it was a bad message to send to the people of New York City. Guess what? Now, what Jamie says in real time, she says they are mostly Jews in New York. Assuming she's either saying that there's mostly Jews on the Metropolitan Transportation Authority, which is incorrect, or she's saying that they're mostly Jews in New York. Is equally ignorant. There are a lot of Jews in New York. In fact, there's more Jews in New York City than there are. I believe in New York City than there is actually in the state of Israel, because the state of Israel is really tiny. You know what I mean? There are a lot of Jews in New York. Yeah, I get you. The majority? No. The Jews aren't the majority of anything except Israel. That's the only thing. But so there you go. So this goes to show you the mindset of these people. The fact that you would mention that the MTA is mostly Jewish, well, it's not. I thought this was so meticulously researched, Jamie. You're incorrect and wrong. And what are you going to do? Count the people on the MTA board and come up with the fact that there's more Jews than what? Italians? First of all, what's a Jew? It's crazy. It's bizarre. It's undefined, and it's a silly way to look at the world. The ads were allowed in the court over the protest of the MTA. What's that got to do with anything? I don't know, other than giving Jamie an opportunity to show her fundamental ignorance about things in the world and the way the real world works. Like I said, you can go back to these past Freeman TV videos and you can see multiple instances where she makes reference to the fact that she came from sounds like an extremely sheltered background, and I don't think she's done much to expand her mind view, despite traveling across America with Freeman Fly and couch surfing for a year or so. I don't know. Religion in general. It's a magnifying glass of your own personality. I don't know what the fuck she's talking. Islam is a tool of the New World Order. Okay. A World War III Then they cite this, this thing that's attributed to Albert Pike, this notion that there's a statement by Albert Pike, from the Freemasons, because it's this conspiracy theory. Oh, the Freemasons are coming. The Freemasons are coming too, right? Remember the Freemasons were the ones behind everything? There's a statement that's often attributed to Albert Pike, but it's been completely debunked. He never said it, where it says that World War III, the plan for the New World Order that the Freemasons were bringing into power, was that World War III was going to be, religion was going to be at the center of it. And they were going to make all the religions fight each other so that the only option left was the Luciferian Freemasonic option. It's just a bunch of stuff that came out of some backwoodsy Baptist or Protestant congregation or church and some conspiracy theorist out in the middle of the boondocks. It's completely debunked. It's not attributable to Albert Pike at all. And by the way, if you want to talk about the Gnosticism that Freeman Fly ostensibly believes or belongs to, it's kind of Freemasonic. It really kind of is. And by the way, this is the guy that parties with Frater X, right? A guy who's the rebel Freemason, who's bringing Freemason back to its original Gnostic roots. Well, Freemason is so bad. What are you doing hanging out with this guy? Satanic Hollywood is now turning into Islamic Hollywood. What's the evidence? Janet Jackson is becoming a Muslim by marriage. That's it. That's their evidence, right? That there's this massive trend towards Hollywood turning into Muslims, or that Jay-Z is a member of it has jewelry that represents the 5% Nation. If Jay-Z showed up at an actual 5% Nation congregational meeting, he wouldn't, because he'd get his ass kicked in for being all sorts of flavors of being a race traitor and not being a god and not honoring the other gods around him. The 5% Nation is an offshoot of kind of an Islamic mystery school that's got a fascinating history dating back to the Moorish Science Temple and the Nation of Islam and the fruits of Islam. And you see, just there and then, I've said more about the 5% Nation than I think that these guys have any knowledge of. And they're saying that they're claiming that they've done meticulous research. You trust us not to get caught up in religion versus religion. I guess they're talking about themselves. Conversion narrative. Opinion should be flexible. I agree. Here's something that Jamie says. The only Muslim I know is her mother's friend. And there's no strife when those two hang out. Okay? Him, and then she had one trip to Egypt. Dude, if you only know one Muslim and you only have had one trip around into Egypt, I don't think that you're qualified to talk about Islam. Unless maybe you had a PhD in Islamic studies. Do you have a PhD in Islamic studies, Jamie or Freeman Fly? Or did you just Google some shit, right? Or have you been Googling this shit for a couple of years? The hubris to think that you're qualified to talk about an analysis of Islam, or the way Muslims behave or act generally in their countries, in their home countries of origin, like home countries of origin like the United States of America, or Mexico, or Peru. There's Muslims everywhere. If we defend them, this is a statement by Freeman Fly. If we defend our homes with guns, we will be the criminals. This is the other. This goes to show you this. He repeatedly says this sort of notion, the notion that if a white guy exercises his Second Amendment rights to defend his ranch, right, or his homestead or his family with a gun against a migrant invader, that the police are going to show up and they're going to be on the side of the migrant invader. He says it like 3 or 4 times. What a bullheaded, ridiculous statement. What a bullheaded, ridiculous statement. The notion that in the United States of America, what's going to happen or what's about to happen is that the white people are being hunted down systematically and they're on the run. Who would say such a thing? White skinheads would say such a thing, right? Neo-Nazis would say such things. Racist people would say such things, have such anxieties and have such fears. The notion that the police force in America or Europe, they're basically an arm of the New World Order, an arm of what? ZOG, the Zionist-oriented government, trying to make people assimilate, or trying to preference the rights of illegal immigrants, of people with dark skin over people with white skin. And first of all, our homes, like I said, there's plenty of people in America who don't have white skin, my brother. They're already here. What are you talking about, this white genocide? Oh, my God. Oh, Jamie's going to now school us about Islamic theology, that there's basically 3 Islams, there's the first, which was the Quran, the words of the Prophet Muhammad. Then there was Sharia law, the interpretive law. And then she goes this, watch this. She goes, this happens at the 20-minute mark. She goes, that's true for Judaism as well. She's talking about the Torah, basically that, you have the Old Testament, you have the 5 books of the Old Testament, that, and then in addition to that, you have Talmudic studies, and you also have Kabbalah studies. You have studies of interpretive studies that come afterwards that also constitute the what could be considered Jewish law. Now she mentions the Islamists, she mentions the Jews, and then she stops there. Now most people would notice that there's something missing there. There's a missing piece of the triangle, right? Whenever we used to talk about Judeo-Christian philosophy, right? Now we talk about Judeo-Christian Islamic philosophy. Why? We understand that all 3 of these guys, the schools of faith religions, come from the same tree. She mentions 2 of them as coming from the same tree, and she goes on to say that these 2 have a common origin. Dude, you think that Christianity is different? Well, she's a Christian. Does that have anything to do with the fact that why she left Christianity off that list? And Christianity is no exception. Hello, all the books of the Bible were written long after if Jesus Christ existed, and there's a lot of historical debate about whether or not he was just a guy like Thor. If Jesus Christ actually existed, there's no doubting, there's no debate that the books of the Bible were written after his death. You ever hear a thing about called the Council of Nicaea? The Holy Bible, the King James Version of the Bible you have, all the transliterations, the NIV Bible, all that stuff is based on the accepted books of the Bible that were canonized by a group of Romans, right, at the Council of Nicaea into the Bible. Duh. How are you not going to include that Christianity in that list of people whose religions not only are they the primary religious source, but there's also interpretation after the fact? You probably believe in the Book of Enoch. You do, Freeman Fly. Come on. That just goes to show you the level of critical analysis that we're dealing with here in these 2. I'm sorry. Oh, the photo of the little Syrian boy? That was staged. That's a conspiracy theory canard. It really is. Children did die in the boat lifts from out of Syria into Europe, and they did, and I'm sorry, the evidence that I've seen that Syrian boy photo was staged is circumspect at best, and I just don't buy. And anyone who does apply that always says the same thing. Why was it done? Why was it done? Because there's an overarching agenda in the New World Order. The powers that be want the Muslims to come over here and destroy authentic European culture. What authentic European culture? What do you mean, what authentic European culture? Right? They watch TV, they've got cars, they play on the internet. None of these guys are taking their reindeer to work. None of these people are playing friggin', medieval instruments, the pure folk music of the Laplands in the past. No, they're not. You know what I mean? Authentic European culture is modern, first world culture. Authentic European culture. It's just this kind of, and also think about that. Who wanted to defend the authentic European culture from the encroaching invaders? There was a guy. Can't quite put my finger on it. It's how you sound, folks. It's how you sound. What's going on in Syria? Well, it's got something to do with the Anunnaki. The Muslim Holocaust that will be used, just like the Jewish Holocaust, by the New World Order to further their agenda through political correctness and reparations. Just because you're persecuted doesn't mean you're innocent. Double back. The Muslim Holocaust that's occurring now, I guess they're talking about the bombings and everything's going on. I mean, it's true. I mean, I said that I thought that a lot of what was happening post 9/11 had to do with a systematic depopulation of countries where the people were brown. Hello, shades of George Carlin. And what was the agenda? The agenda was to clear that land of the problem people so that we could go in and get those sweet, sweet natural resources. Now, I don't know. Okay? There's a lot of things I know about. There's a lot of things that I don't know. Am I a political scholar? Well, I'm interested in politics, and I try to expose myself to politics. I do. Do I have a PhD in political analysis? No, I don't. I'm free balling like everybody else, just like Freeman Fly out here in Jamie. I am. But I dare say that some of my commentary might be a little bit more sophisticated or nuanced than the stuff that they're bringing to the table. Let's go again. The Muslim Holocaust that will be used just like the Jewish Holocaust by the New World Order. The Jewish Holocaust was used by the New World Order to further their agenda through political correctness and reparations. Was there a Jewish state of Israel created after World War II in response to the Holocaust, or ostensibly in response to the Holocaust? Yeah, there are things you could say. Reparations? That gold never came out of Switzerland. It didn't. It really didn't. The artworks, how about the precious loss of life used by the New World Order? Just because you're persecuted doesn't mean you're innocent. Well, I guess that's true. But when you're speaking in general terms, like the victims of the Holocaust or the victims of the Muslim Holocaust, first of all, there's no Muslim Holocaust because the people that are killing each other over there are Muslim versus Muslim for the most part, right? HAARP blamed for the Syrian drought and the California drought. Oh, the California drought, that's not because of global warming. That's obviously a conspiracy. No, it's HAARP technology. And they're doing it intentionally to drive, I guess, the people out of California to fight the people on the East Coast. That would make sense because reasons? Come on. There are water wars in California. Well, the water is, there's the drought in California. But guess what? They're not dying yet. They're not leaving California. They may in the future. Hey, who knows? Life is complicated. It might get tough. But if things get tough, it's probably not because of HAARP, and it probably is because of man-made global warming. Just throwing it out there. You might have a different opinion. Let's hash it out in the comments below. Let's talk about it. It's not really what my channel's about. I'm getting off all this. I'm going back to spirituality. After this, I'm going back to spirituality for a while. We'll talk about things like Stuart Swerdlow. We'll talk about Simon Parks, but in the context of talking about their ideas. But I felt like this video had to be made. I'm sorry. Oh, and here's the other thing. Oh, that all these guys, these immigrants that are coming over the border, they're all of military age, like it's an army coming over. It's just not true. It's just not true. The people that you can trust, the resources that you can trust, all say the same thing. First of all, listen. The majority of Mexican migrant workers coming over the United States border historically have been male, and a lot of people made a lot about that. That was a problem that showed they were here just to attack the white women, all that stuff. And what it really is that a worker, especially a male worker, especially in a more conservative, backwards, or more religious society, would probably go out themselves to do the work to send the money back home versus bringing his whole family along into a new world where they couldn't possibly maybe have trouble supporting themselves. It's just how it happens. But the notion that all these people are adult males of military age and there's no old people in these people and that everything you see on the video is a staged setup, it's just not true. There are credible organizations, NGOs, non-government organizations, Red Cross, Red Crescent organizations, as well as just the European authorities themselves who are giving estimates about the populations that are coming over the borders. And the notion that they're exclusively male or exclusively males of military strength age, whether they've all got criminal records, or they're all members of the Taliban, or they're all Syrian freedom fighters, or that they're all ex-ISIS or Al-Qaeda, is just not true. It's just not true. I think the facts bear that out. I think research will bear that out. Do the research. You got to do research with an open mind. Research is not looking for what you want. Research is looking at the data, looking at all the data sources and all the data sets, and reaching a conclusion based thereon. And it's not saying, I know that they're all male, and then looking out, doing researching, are Syrian rebels all male over the borders? And it's, see, look, this website says that that's true. Just what I Googled in, popped right up. Imagine that. Oy, oy, oy. Okay. Oh, she says they're all full of piss and vinegar and rowdy. They're rowdy. Go back to college. Budapest. Oh, there's a video on YouTube, right? This is the video that shows that people are trying to be so nice to the Muslim immigrants, and what in response the Muslim immigrants are going crazy and they're demanding money instead of food. I'm not saying that you're not going to have bad apples in the bunch, and I'm not saying that you're not going to have evidence or evidentiary support to say that some of these people coming over the border might be a problematic people. I'm not saying that at all. That would be a ridiculous, foolish statement to say. But to say the opposite, that they're all 100% negative, that's silly as well. It's just unfounded and true. That's not how people operate and work. Oh, so there was this video that it's with English subtitles, and it's a woman on a train from Budapest to Vienna, right? Because everybody knows, if you heard any news out of Budapest or Vienna, it's just the streets are teeming with brown people. They're praying in the streets, you know what I mean? They're making everyone wear the hijab. They've totally taken over Buda and Pest. I mean, Pest held out for a long while, but once Buda fell, I mean, what could you do, right? She's taking a train to Vienna, that hotbed of Islamic attack activity, and the train was under siege. She spoke Arabic so she could translate. Okay. They were beating their own women. They were defecating everywhere. They trampled the food, saying it was only good enough for women and dogs. And then Freeman says they were all of military age. Well, folks, remember they just said that all the people coming over were males of military age, and she actually says that they're also of good standing, that they've got money, they're rich kids. But how are they beating their own women if they don't have their own women with them? They're defecating everywhere. Come on. Sounds like the kind of racist canards we've heard for thousands of years. The thing about the Negro, you must know and understand, is they simply lack the brain pan capacity and understand for true morality and ethics and behavior. The thing about the common Hebrew is this. I can tell by the study of phrenology that the Asiatic male is of subnormal intelligence compared to his white brethren. Mustn't let these people breed in the new country. Close down the borders. They act like animals out of Africa, right? That whole thing. They mentioned the Kalergi plan. Kalergi was, these guys seem to think that this guy was the founder of the European Union. Now, it couldn't be further from the truth. This guy that they mentioned, Richard Kalergi, in 1922 had this thing called the Pan-European movement. He was a racist anti-Semite. He hated the Jews. He hated the blacks. He hated the Africans. He hated those people he called Asiatic. He hated the Oriental. He hated all these people, and these people seem to think that he had some sort of leadership position. No, he wrote books, about the Pan-European Union. He wanted Europe to get together and unite as one solid whole, kind of like the United States of America. Guess what? It didn't happen in his lifetime. 1922 is when he was around. Some historical stuff happened after that, and it didn't leave a Pan-European Union, right, at all, much to Hitler's dismay, right? Oh, man, the dream of a united parent. This guy's nuts. Diversity, these guys. I'm giving it short shrift. I admit. I'm running through these notes because you can't. There's nothing intellectual here to strap onto to have a nuanced discussion about. It's just ignoramus statements. Diversity is a code word for white genocide. I didn't say it. They said it. Let me say it one more time. Diversity is a code word for white genocide. If you think that diversity is a code word for white genocide, please unsubscribe to my channel. You don't need to stick around. I'm not going to say anything you like. I disagree with this. Now, if you disagree with me about 9/11, whether there was thermite on the girders, whether you think that the Jesuits are running the whole show, even if you think that the Jews are running the whole show, I invite everybody to discuss things in an intellectual and nuanced manner. But if you're going to say things like diversity is a code word for white genocide, you just, I don't need you around. Please go home. Diversity is not a dirty word. It's not a dirty word. European birth. Well, this is the thing. Let's say European birth rates versus them. So here's the thing. So here's the notion that people are saying that basically what's happening around the world is that people in poorer nations, which surprise, surprise, turn out to generally be brown nations, they have more kids than people in rich nations, which, surprise, surprise, generally turn out to be white nations. Oh, by the way, in case you're curious, the Japanese feel about Koreans and Chinese people much the same way that white people feel about people with brown skin. That's why Japan fell in love with Hitler. That was an easy fit. They were like, you're right, absolutely. They were the Aryans of the Asiatic community. They were the Aryans of the Oriental world. That was the selling point, right? Some Japanese. And the racism is bad, but that leads to the dehumanization, leads to things like the rape of Nanking. Leads to things like the Sino-Russo War. Whatever. Okay, here we go. So there it says, you're going to love and tolerate yourself out of existence. Just because you love them doesn't mean they love you back. Hello? A little guy by the name of Jesus Christ. If you spite me on my cheek, what am I supposed to do? I turn the other cheek. What sort of Gnostic worldview, what sort of New Age, spiritually enlightened worldview says things like, we got to make sure that there's plenty of us around? Talk about New World Order encouraging conspiratorial, Draco-reptilian-based bullshit. That we better preserve the white race. What, do you believe in the 13 words, Freeman Fly? That's not a rhetorical question. Think about this. Freeman Fly, if he's talking about white genocide, what's the anxiety? He's not talking about Christian genocide. He's not saying that there's a fear that there's going to be no more Christianity. He uses the term white genocide. And first of all, he loves to talk about that he's a member of the rainbow community. If I find out that you're going to a rainbow family meeting, Freeman Fly, I'm gonna find you there. I'm going to bring this shit up to your face in front of everybody. You think that they're going to be cool with that? You think this shit's going to fly at the fucking Dead and Company concert? You think you're going to show up at the Fish concert at the rave with this white just because you don't say white supremacist? If you're fearing for the white genocide, you're saying that racialism matters. It couldn't matter less to the soul. I was involved with Krishna consciousness for 1 million years, and they always used to say things. It doesn't matter if you're in a white body or if you're in a black body. It doesn't matter if you're in a brown body or a yellow body. You're all spirit soul. And the notion that you're not is racial divisionism. The KKK is not a Christian organization, though they purport to be so. And the degree to which the Bible supports racism, or the Torah supports racism, or the Quran supports racism, or the Buddhist teachings support racism, those things are wrong. Sometimes things are just wrong, not conducive. Love is the only answer. Love, love, love. The famous philosopher Bertrand Russell, okay? Whenever he did an analysis of what is right and what is wrong, always concluded by saying, I've come to the conclusion that love is good and enlightened, and hatred is bad. Get back to your Gnosticism. Get back to your study of the Dead Sea Scrolls, the Book of Enoch, the Aquarian Gospel of Christ. This sounds more, for a guy that's so anti the Church of Satan, this is Acts Mark Passio. That's white genocide. That's the kind of shit that they were scared of in the Church of Satan. White genocide. And like I said, where's the exemplar? Where are the white people being gathered up and put into boxes en masse? You're going to find an example of black on white crime? Sure, that's easy. People have been fighting each other all the time. You're going to find examples of white on black crime? Sure, that's easy. Easier? No. People have been jacked up and doing jacked up shit all their entire life. Guess what happens if you go to Japan? Are there rapes happening in Japan? Sure. Are there rapes happening in Israel and in Kazakhstan and in Barbados and in Africa and in Canada and in temples and in mandirs and in synagogues? Yeah, jack shit happens all over the place. But you don't generalize and then say, because these actors engaged in bad things, therefore we can tar everybody with that same brush, gather them up, kill them. And what's your solution to white genocide? Trauma-based mind control on both sides. You can't talk back. Their theory is why there's political correctness is because we've been traumatized and subject to trauma-based mind control, so we can't talk bad about Islam because we've been traumatized by it. What? These guys are... Oh, there's German school children that are forced to take care of these migrant immigrants. There's no evidence of that at all. No evidence at all. Islam will dominate the world. They don't adopt, they conquer. Well, that's categorically untrue. That's categorically untrue. There were hundreds of years of the Moorish occupation of Spain and Italy, and guess what? They kind of came out European. They really did. It really happened that way. And also, that's a perfect example that there's going to be this worldwide caliphate. It's already happened. The Muslims already invaded Europe and took over large swaths of it. Guess what happened? They got kicked out eventually. It goes back and forth. It's ridiculous. Oh, Freeman Fly says, the police will be on the side of the immigrants, not us. Immigrants, not us. That's an enlightened worldview. Wait, why the immigrants? Because they come from a different country, Freeman Fly? It's cuckoo bananas racism. It's just that special sort of, the great thing about my generation is thanks to the internet, we're so smart, we're stupid. We think because we know all this information that we've enlightened ourselves, we've educated ourselves, and we don't need a college degree because we're going to educate ourselves on the internet. But guess what? When you're in charge of your own self-education, you don't know what you're missing. You don't know what's missing piece of the puzzle. I'm wondering if Freeman Fly listens to this video that I'm doing with an open heart and open mind. He might not fall to his knees and say, Jesus Christ, I do have some things to pray about, no pun intended. The police will be on the side of the immigrants, not us. Yeah, that's the way the world works today, right? That's the way the world works in America, right? Oh, my God. It's just white fear of change. And there's a brother in the White House. That's the real problem. That's why they had to go on that whole birther nonsense. Right? That's why Obama's got to be some sort of clone. It can't just be that a guy won the popular election despite that he's not the same color as you. And guess what? Just because the guy in the presidency is now has a different skin color than you doesn't mean you're on the run. Right? And how about all the hundreds of years that they had to deal with presidents that weren't the same skin color as they are? Even this us-them language is just so foolish and wrong-headed. And it's got nothing to do with enlightenment. It's got nothing to do with reason. It's got nothing to do with New Age beauty, Gnostic Christ consciousness. It's just racism. Guess what? The Native Americans' reaction they mentioned this. Then some all sorts of crazy bullshit that I just wrote down crazy tales. When I write down things like crazy tales, I mean my head was I turned red. Right, I was about to fume. I was about to throw something out the window. I had stepped on my cat's tail or something that I just couldn't take it anymore. Oh, they go like this. So the Native Americans' reaction to white germs. They talk about how when the white folk, the European invaders, came to the New World, how the Native Americans or the first peoples didn't have immunity to our germs, so they all started dying off. Well, they have a premise here that the same thing is going to happen. This is how stupid this is. People have been traveling back and forth from Africa for since the invention of the airplane, right? Since the invention of modern transportation. The notion, even Ebola, the notion, you're going to have germs that come out of their new germs, but the notion that there's going to be new stuff that's going to be hitting the European coast or the European people that they're not going to have natural immunities to is far-fetched and ridiculous. People of all cultures have already mixed to the point, mass population, the shipping of items and manufactured goods and food from Africa to America and back and forth into Europe and this, that. Oh, come on, give me a break. That's not going to happen that way. Will germs spread? Can there be new germs? Yeah, but guess what? Remember Ebola? Remember how that turned out to be nothing? Remember the H1N1 virus scare? Remember how the avian bird flu? Remember how that went fucking nowhere? Look, could there be a new plague? Sure, but it's not because of the same way that the Native Americans got decimated by. It's not a whole new world meeting a whole new world. That shit doesn't happen anymore. There's very unexplored parts of the world anymore, and the parts of the world that are unexplored are all underwater. They're the oceans. The land masses have all been mapped. We've basically seen all the people we're going to see. Even the darkest, deepest Amazon has been satellite mapped out the wazoo. They were acting like animals. Sound familiar? Like they out of Africa. Oh my God. Catholics look at it. Oh my God. Can Muslims live with non-Muslims? Yeah, they have. For hundreds of years, they get along just fine. It's crazy. It's crazy. Doctrines of Islam come from the top to the bottom. See, here's the thing that's really crazy about these guys, and really just so wrong-headed and ignorant. These guys really act like Islam is a special consideration, that the criticisms that you can lay at Islam are different than the criticisms you can lay at any major world religion, like Judaism, like Hinduism, like Buddhism, like Jainism, okay? People fight. Buddhists have picked up guns now. They're Buddhist terror squads going all over Southeast Asia, wrecking some shit and abusing who? Muslims, you know what I mean? And go ask some people in Pakistan or in the Kashmir region about how open-hearted, kind, and non-racist Hindus can be towards them. Yeah, they're invading India? No, it's not like that. Actually, they get their ass kicked daily. They're a minority. Whoever's in the minority has a tendency to get their ass handed to them. It's just the way that people can be. And it's jerkwadi. And, oh, my God. Okay, Hezbollah are the only ones protecting Christians from ISIS. I don't know. The assassins versus the Knights Templar. The assassins, the Hashashin, were mind controlled. Well, I mean, this is a historical fact. I mean, look, but do you think that the Crusaders were any less mind controlled? Mind control. What makes a man march from the hinterlands of northern Europe to the hot desert wasteland of the Holy Land? Mind control. And it wasn't Islamic mind control. It was Christian mind control. That's the magic word you're looking for. One poll said that 51% of American Muslims want Sharia law. That sounds like a stupid poll that probably doesn't exist and is some bullshit. Sharia law is the most backward thing you could imagine. Well researched, meticulously researched. 5 to 10% of Europe is now a no-go zone. Oh, there's no-go zones in London and Paris where non-Muslims are not allowed. Guess what? Well-researched, douchebag. Here we go. So make sure you got the webpage. Okay, go to insider.foxnews.com. Hundreds of no-go zones across France are off limits to. Let's go pick up the page. See if it loads up. You can also go to Snopes.com. Now, okay, here we go. Fox News apologizes for errors regarding European Muslim population. Dateline, January 10th, 2015, a while ago. Jerk ass. Over the course of the past week, Fox News has made some regrettable errors on air regarding the Muslim population in Europe, particularly in England and France. This applies especially to discussions of supposed no-go zones, areas where non-Muslims are allegedly not allowed to go and police supposedly won't go. There was no formal designation of these zones in either country and no credible information to support the assertion that there are areas of these countries that exclude individuals based solely on their religion. Fox News deeply regrets the errors and apologizes to any and all who may have taken offense, including the people of France and England. It's just one of those things that's just not effing true. If you want proof, also, you don't like Fox News because they're mainstream media, right? Go to Snopes.com. Oh my God, did I just mention Snopes? To a bunch of New Age crazies like myself? I'm obviously a shill, right? False claim. A number of localities in the United States, France, and Britain are considered Muslim no-go zones, operating under Sharia law, where local laws are not applicable. False. False. Look it up yourselves. Did you know? Let's see if I can do my Alex Jones. It's happening, people. You know, a place in Europe you never thought would happen. I like Muslims. I'm not saying that they're bad people, but the way they treat their women. You know, there's no-go zones in Europe. It's happening. They've taken over. They've taken over. So they're not going to report it because they don't want you to know. Cover my mic a little because I don't get the stand. But yes, I'll do a little acting here. You think this guy happened in America? That's what they want. They want it to happen in America. I'd like to see you try. The answer in 1984 is 1776. Like 1776 was a great year for a whole bunch of fucking people. You know what I mean? Here we go. Fox News. Moderate Muslims are prosecuted by more extreme ones. Yeah, that's dumb, but that just means that there's moderate Muslims, you jerks. There's moderate people everywhere. God damn it. False premise that religious leaders don't change. Yeah, exactly. Believe you me, you know, the Mormon Church once had a rule that said that African people, black people, the children of Ham, couldn't attain to the priesthood of Aaron. Guess what? They prayed on that shit around 1970, whatever, a little bit late in the day, if you ask me. And guess what? Revelation from God. Guess what? Now there can be black priests in the Mormon Church. Just in time to go to sell their shit in Africa. all sorts of things are just unsupported by any historical fact or research. Acts like Islam is the only religion that's subject. Oh, then she goes into women's rights, as if the Bible, as if the teachings of Jesus Christ were enlightened. As if the teaching, first of all, the Buddha. Do you know the Buddha started off saying that women couldn't become enlightened, and it was only until he kind of basically got his ass kicked by the women in his congregation that he changed his mind about that. The Buddha said originally that women couldn't be enlightened in this lifetime, would have to wait to come back to be men. That's a historical fact, folks. If there's a historical Buddha, that's a historical fact. The notion that Islam is harder on its women than a strict by the letter black letter law interpretation of Judaism or Christianity or Hinduism is just redunk. Right? Women are classically abused in an underprivileged group in society. The notion that this woman is going to say, Jamie is going to say that women have it tougher under Islam is just unsupported. And you would know that if you had any sort of background in comparative religion or comparative theology or sociological studies. You don't. You're unqualified to speak about these things. You are singularly unqualified, and Freeman Fly is unqualified as well. Women's rights and the subjugation of women, they were moving forward in the West. Now, here's the thing. You want to talk about first world countries where women's rights were pretty well in place, where women didn't have to wear the hijab. Here's a list of countries for you. Now, this is a sad list of countries. Now, check this out. These were some countries where women's rights under Islam were moving forward in a fine fucking pace. Tell me if you notice a trend. Syria, Egypt, Libya, Iraq, Turkey's still around. Let's see how long they hold out for. The places that had to go were the places where the women had it okay. So it's not synonymous. Islam is not synonymous with the abuse of women's rights. Let's talk about countries where some women's rights are not so great. Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Dubai. Trends. You can look at those trends. And what's the real trend tell you? It's got nothing to do with Islam. It's got nothing to do with Islam. You look at the strict interpretation of Bible interpretation of women's rights. Women shouldn't be. First of all, if you look at the Holy Bible that presumably you would agree with if you were a Christian, guess what? Freeman Fly, the minute Jamie started talking on air, Freeman Fly should have punched her in the mouth, right? She's not allowed to preach to men. She's not allowed to tell us anything about information about news. It's not her place as a woman. If you read the Bible, even if you read the Dead Sea Scrolls, it's not like the Dead Sea Scrolls are some fantastic, amazing book on women's lib. And what do you think Freeman Fly says about women's lib? What do you think Gloria Steinem? He doesn't think that Gloria Steinem was a CIA plant designed to destroy the family. What family? The white family? Oh my God! I see. Here's Jamie, the enlightened one, saying, "I see a woman with a hijab. I never think it's good. It hurts my heart." Okay. So it should be a personal decision, and it never is, because who would choose that? If she had just gone to YouTube and entered in the terms, why I wear a hijab, she would be able to see, you do it yourself. You'll see many interviews. This is just YouTube. This is not the World Wide Web. This is go to YouTube. You go to MySpace and do it. Enter in why I wear the hijab. You will see people, women who have doctorate degrees, women who've got PhDs, women who are educated, women who are lesbians, women who consider themselves feminists, women who consider themselves liberals, women who consider themselves conservative, political, mainstream conservatives. People consider themselves libertarians, and they'll explain to you why they wear the hijab. Cultural premise or pride. They like to dress the way that their culture traditionally dresses. Also, absolutely, a little bit less objectification from the male gaze. Thank you very much. I can perform my duties as a student at this college. I can perform my duties as a nurse. I can perform my duties as a doctor. I can perform my duties as a politician, a policewoman, whatever. Better if when you see me, you're not immediately trying to check me out or see what's going on. Some people choose to do that. burqas. We're not talking about burqas. We're talking about hijabs here. But some of her premise might be based on some sort of kind of nonsensical thought she has, or just thoughts that I might not share, you might not share. It turns out, according to Jamie, that the hair is an organ and it soaks up cosmic rays. I guess this is why the Jews have to cover their head, because we don't want to be exposed to cosmic rays that would enlighten us, right? That's why our leaders, that's why the reptilians make the Muslim men and the Jewish men cover our heads, right? And Jamie thinks it's obvious that if we looked at these studies about Cherokee hunters or Native American hunters, we would see that that's true, that the hair is an organ that soaks up cosmic rays. Let me dare say that the hair is no. That's just not, no, cover your head, you cover your hair for a variety of reasons. You wear hats and it doesn't hurt your ability to soak up cosmic rays. Hey, you want to know a guy who wears a hat a lot of the time, considering that the hair is an organ that soaks up cosmic rays? Freeman Fly often wears a hat. Guess Bill Ryan's screwed, man, right? Bill Ryan, take off your hat, man. That's what happened. Take off your hat, man. The Commodore wants you to soak up those cosmic rays with the hair that's an organ. Oh my gosh. Okay, 52 minutes and 56 seconds. Where the fuck am I in my video? Oh god, an hour and a half. Okay. Here then she starts talking about Muhammad. This is gonna go well. This is smart. Come on, Jamie. Come on, Freeman Fly. Do you really think that you're qualified to talk about these things? No. You're qualified to know that if you make a video that comes out on the day of the Paris riots talking about this stuff, you're going to get amazing amounts of clicks. At the time I started making this video, their video had made 12,406 hits. Freeman Fly monetizes his videos. He doesn't monetize all of them. He's smart, but he monetizes a lot of them. This is his career. And what happens when you make things a career? It starts to affect your ability to call a spade and to really do real research and work. Why? Because all of a sudden now you need to justify. You need to keep on generating those hits. You need to keep the hits coming, right? You have to have a new thing. Really? Obama was a clone of an ancient Egyptian pharaoh, and we're no longer talking about that? I figured we'd still be talking about that. Or how about this? Once you discovered agape, once you discovered God's love, why would you be talking about any of this stuff? Doesn't love supersede all this stuff? Isn't the ultimate answer to Illuminati mind control freeing your mind from these things like racial division, religion versus religion? Muhammad, 1,400 years ago, so not that long ago, according to Jamie and Freeman Fly. It's not that old a religion. It's just 1,400 years old. When they look at the works of Muhammad, they think that sounds like someone that may have been having epilepsy, and they think there's a lot of scholars that say, yeah, absolutely, he's probably epileptic. Yeah, like Jesus Christ sounds like a really sane, normal person to a lot of people, right? He couldn't possibly be subject to mental delusion or illusion, right? He couldn't possibly have a mental health issue, freaking out, overturning, tables in the temple. That's what I'm saying. It's just hypocrisy. Oh my God. He had 13 wives, and nowadays it's acceptable to have 4 wives in Islam. No, it's not. If you are an American Muslim, you're going to have 1 wife. In Egypt, Liberia, Syria, Turkey, and Iraq, they don't have multiple wives. Polygamy is illegal in those countries as well. It's now acceptable to have 4 wives. There is no reference to this at all. Then he mentioned something about extraterrestrial esotericism. I don't know, thank God. Child molestation is standard practice in Islam. Did you know that? That doesn't sound like fear-mongering. It certainly sounds like it's true. Child molestation is standard practice in Islam. And Muslims support this. Now at this point, some people are going to say, what about American soldiers and GIs talking about noticing that there was a child sexual abuse amongst the Afghani fighters that they were supposed to be training with or fighting with? I'm not saying that there's not Muslims that molest children. I'm not saying that there's not backwards aspects or backwaters of Pakistan, Afghanistan, or where have you, where people don't molest children systematically based on the teaching of Islam. But that's not Islam. Doing that is like judging Mormonism by the actions of the FDLS, the fundamentalist Church of Latter-day Saints, FLDS. Yeah, it's not the way it rolls. The mainstream Mormon congregation have turned their backs on polygamy, much to the chagrins of the fundamentalists. Okay? The fundamentalists aren't the rule, they're the exception nowadays. In Christianity, in Islam, and in Judaism, believe you me, the majority of Jews, right, aren't going around as Hasidim. They're not even Orthodox. The majority of Jews in the world are Reformed Jews who are like, what? Oh, it's temple? Oh, shit. It's sundown? The majority of Jews don't observe the Sabbath, just like the majority of Christians don't observe the Sabbath. Just like the majority of Muslims, I hate to tell you this, the majority of Muslims probably don't pray 5 times a day. A lot of them do. A lot of people keep to the tenets of their faith. But they're all over the place. Remember we were talking about white genocide? There's white Muslims. Remember we were talking about white genocide? If the Muslims take over, they're going to be killing a lot of black people too, a lot of Asian people too. We may find out that, oh my God, check this out. If I'm lying, I'm dying. Freeman Fly says this. If you subscribe to Freeman Fly, listen to this one. We may find out that Osama bin Laden was a hero. I didn't say it. He said that. Why was he say that Osama bin Laden might be a hero? Because at the time that the GIs killed Osama bin Laden, allegedly, he was reading The Monster from Jekyll Island and had a lot of books in his library similar to The Monster from Jekyll Island. I guess he was an anti-Fed, probably the protocols of the, hey, I want Freeman Fly to go on the record. What's Freeman Fly's interpretation of the protocols of the Elders of Zion? Wouldn't that be an interesting question to pose to Freeman Fly? Osama bin Laden, we might find out that Osama bin Laden was a hero. Oh, Native Americans set up the U.S. Constitution too. That's another. I stopped taking notes. It just got so dumb at that point. He started saying, so Freeman Fly, look, I love you, brother. I'll pray for you, and you should pray for yourself. You're saying racist, xenophobic, Islamophobic bullshit that's got no basis in reality. You're not qualified to analyze these things. You're not even qualified, really. I mean, look, compared to the work of Mark Passio. I mean, Mark Passio, I would never be able to do this video about Mark Passio, right? I couldn't do this video about David Icke. Could I have things about Mark Passio that I disagree with? Could I, take reservation or have comments or things about he says about natural law, a stateless solution to the New World Order, these various topics? Yeah, absolutely. Could have a nuanced conversation. I don't think you'd find Mark Passio saying this stuff. Apparently, Mark Passio left the Church of Satan because of things like this. White genocide? What would Stephen Molyneux make of this? What would David Icke say about this stuff, white genocide? Freeman Fly, you're not qualified. You're a fantastic guy. The reason, and I pray for you. Pray for me, man. We both pray for. Hey, everyone out there, pray for all of us, right? Pray for all of us. Take care of you for us. But this is crazy talk, man. This is crazy talk, and you gotta wonder what's happening. Here, I'm gonna tell you what my theory is. My theory is this: is that people are starved for attention, and these conspiracy theory researchers, they love to hear themselves talk. I'm not a conspiracy theory researcher. I'm not. If you look at the tenets of my channel, the breadth of things that I cover, I talk a lot about a lot of these topics. I do, but I'm not a conspiracy theory researcher, and this is not my life. I don't have an agenda here. I'm talking on YouTube about a variety of subjects. Mostly, it was supposed to be talking about spirituality. I don't know how the hell I ended up in this backwater talking about this. But what happens is that Tex Mars needs to get booked. Gerald Calente needs to get booked. Freeman Fly wants to get booked. And there's only a variety of places you can go. There's only a couple of higher side chat channels, right? There's only a couple of Robert Mugen's off Planet Radio. There's only a couple places you can go like that, but there's a lot of places like Red Ice Radio, like the Jeff Wrench Show. And what happens is I think that people start rubbing off on each other. And then you get Jay Widener saying crazy things. I pray for Jeff Rentz. I love Jeff Rentz too. I love all these people. I love Henrik. He's a human being too. And believe you me, I'm well aware of the fact that the same things that the things I'm saying about like Jeff Rense could absolutely be said by about Professor Griff, right? That there's absolutely pro-African conspiracy theorists out there, talking about the presence of Menelin basically being synonymous with morality and ethics, and the lack of Menelin being synonymous with moral scumbaggery or whatever it is. That's it. I've run my course. That's Freeman Fly. The video is published the day of the Paris attacks. Paris attacks, believe it or else. Originally supposed to be titled The Muslims Are Coming. Published on November 14th, 2015. 12,406 hits. At the time of this writing. Will anyone approach Freeman Fly when it comes to the question and answer period at the next Free Your Mind conference? Will anyone bring this up to Mark Passio? Or will you just criticize me? And let me ask you, here's a non-rhetorical question. Is there any doubt in anybody's mind that Freeman Fly is probably gaining more and more fans in the racial separatist community? I'm half Jewish and half Puerto Rican. Freeman Fly, if the racists start coming after me, neo-Nazis start coming after me based on the allegations and the things I've said about your program, you got my back? It's a rhetorical question until it hits your ears. I love everybody. I love everybody. I love everybody. Okay, I'm not trying to be a Muslim apologist. Dude, I'm not a Muslim, right? I'm not a fan and supporter of organized religion, okay? I think it leads to nothing but bad things. But does it lead to more bad things than Christianity or Judaism or Buddhism or Hinduism or whatever? Pick your ism. Racism, ethnocentrism. We're better than you. We need to preserve our authentic, this culture, that culture. Good luck. And why? Christ consciousness doesn't have a color. Gnosticism has nothing to do with race. Spirituality has nothing to do with these body bags, these astronaut, life preservers that we run around with, right? In love and light, in love forever. Love over will. I love you all. Good night, and God bless.